I got my job with Dupont after interviewing for a number of places, including Oak Ridge and so forth. I had some good job offers, but I liked DuPont. Of the ones I interviewed, I liked DuPont the best, and had no trouble getting a job there. And I took over the laboratory, which had about 30 people in it, various skills, all of them with advanced degrees. So it was a very interesting thing to step into a thing like this, just new out of college.
And you
But
were
it
out
worked.
of UVA at this time, right?
Beg pardon?
What college had you come out of?
Out of Brown.
Oh, you come out of Brown.
Yeah, I've gone through this story here.
No, you haven't, but we'll come back
It's
to
not it's necessarily going to be exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You can always resort these if you'd like.
Oh, I will.
Okay, at any rate, I had a job with DuPont, managing, as I say, around 30 people, plus a private secretary, for my first private secretary, which was very nice.
And this was in Richmond now?
This was in Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
and Leona was her name, and she was very affectionate. We got along just great. That also had to make periodic trips overseas or to other places. Many in this country to see to DuPont, other DuPont locations. We'd maybe have a big meeting and the usual sort of thing that an organization does of that type. But
So how old were you about then when you started at DuPont?
How old was I?
You'd finished up UVA and Brown, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to establish a time period. So you finished up UVA and Brown, and you'd moved to Richmond. You moved to Richmond because of DuPont, right?
Right.
Okay, not well, because you were at UVA already.
No, because I was at DuPont.
Because you were at DuPont. So you were probably in your mid-30s at this point, early 30s?
Very early 30s.
Okay, I just wanted to get the time frame. I didn't know that.
Probably that way.
Because come over here, Mom. You can pipe in with a time frame. I'm just trying to set the time. Then we'll let you go on. But kind of hard to.
We got married at Charlottesville when he was in school, and when we got married he was 26.
Okay, so it was shortly late 20s then, you think?
In my late 20s, yeah.
So by that time you'd finished up Brown for undergraduate, or that was graduate. Then UVA undergraduate, Brown on the GI Bill. Just we got to fill in the gaps. So at least I know when it starts. And then you got some job offers. You started at DuPont, and you were married at that time. But this was before I was born.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
I remember. See, when I met him, he must have been 25 or 20.
Yeah, around 25.
25 or something, because we didn't get married the next week, so he must have been 24 or 25. Then he was at the University of Virginia at that time. So then we got married in May 6, 1955,
okay.
and he was 26 then.
Okay.
Then we stayed in Charlottesville for another year or so before we went up to Brown. So then I guess it was 27
so
or 28.
you got the job at DuPont after finishing Brown.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that was in which division that took you down to Richmond? Which DuPont division? Because we're going to come back to the wedding story. Films. Okay. We're going to come back to the wedding, Mom. So that's going to get covered today, but we're doing a career right now. Well, I'm worried
he
about it.
wasn't 30 some years old when we first,
So by that time, he probably was early 30s when you came down to DuPont, or very late 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now, at any rate, what I want to do is point out that when I was with DuPont, I had many opportunities to go to interesting places, including Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before your mother went with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that one of these cases, it was interesting. I just wanted to pass on as a little
Vignette.
note.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good friend who I'd been friends with in high school. In fact, I had a lot of friends. I don't know why that was, but I did.
Like Gretchen.
And he had been killed in combat and was buried in a cemetery, an American cemetery in Luxembourg, or Luxembourg,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to say. At any rate, so I took the opportunity, since I was there, on business of going to visit the grave sites. And it was, as you might expect,
I know it's been a while. Do you happen to remember his name?
oh, Tom something.
Just
Tom
curious.
something.
Yeah, I know it's been an awful long time.
Yeah, it is a long time. But at any rate, as I was leaving the graveyard, driving back to the airport to come home, because my business was finished, and because I was newly married, I didn't like to spend much time out away from the home, you know, obviously. But at any rate, a car came up alongside of me and started blowing his horn. Not that he wanted to pass, I motioned him to come on past, but he wouldn't do it. And he put his window down and said in German, very brusque German, "You tell me where the German cemetery is. You tell me where the German cemetery is." That was in German, of course. And this sort of didn't please me too well. He was sounding like a Nazi, basically.
Yeah,
And so I said, "Oh, you're on the wrong path. You've got to go down this way." And I directed him with a sense of confidence. He said, "Are you sure that's right?" "Oh, yes, sir. I've been there many times." And off he went.
yeah.
Typical German. So that was my experience with Germans, and we had many other. My mother, your mother, and I had other experiences with the Germans. For example, sitting in a dining room area of a museum, listening to the German bankers criticize us, very nasty, not realizing we spoke German, and I spoke some German. Anyway, so
Where did you pick up the German, by the way?
I took it
You
to school.
took it at school. See, but at Brown or UVA?
No, in University
Yeah,
of
when you were
Virginia.
an undergraduate. Yeah.
That was an easy language. I
Yeah.
picked up very easily.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Dupont, because they had so many operations in Europe, also encouraged you to keep your languages up.
So let me pause this video because that's about how long each of them need to be. Otherwise, it's hard for me to file them.